Good morning, everybody. This is Liesel from Campus of Things, and I'm today sitting with Bianca, Carla, Francois, and Hein. So these are our teachers. Bianca is our Maths Lit teacher, Carla is our history teacher, Francois is our physics teacher, and Hein is our mathematics teacher. Now, the point of today's podcast is to talk about essentially, problems or problem-solving strategies when you come to examinations. And I just want to open it up quickly. And this is a question for everybody who's sitting here with me. But first, let's just introduce ourselves. Rock, paper, scissors.
Who's going? Okay, I'll go first. Okay. So, I teach history and tourism for grade 12, and then like history all the way from grade 12 to grade 7. And I think history is just, it teaches your children empathy and to learn to sit in other people's shoes and learn from dictators' mistakes and things like that.
Okay, who's
Hello.
next?
Hello,
Here we go.
everybody. Hello, everybody. I'm the math teacher for grade 8 to 12. I love math. I find it's a very fun subject, and it will teach you how to solve any type of problem that you come across.
Bianca, it's going to be you. It's okay, I'll go. Okay, so as Mr. Force has already introduced, Mr. Francois van Zyl, I am the physics teacher. I also have dabbled in life sciences and geography, and I'm also doing the natural science for the little ones, the intermediate and senior phase. The physical science is, of course, for the 10, 11, and 12s.
And then it's just Bianca left.
I am teaching Math Lit for grade 10 to grade 12, as well as consumer studies for grade 10 to 12.
Okay. So the first question I have for you guys, and you're going to have to fight this one out, okay? When a student first opens the paper, what should they be looking for in the first few minutes that will settle their nerves?
The instructions.
They should be looking for, in math, I usually coach the students and tell them, go through the paper, make mental notes. Okay, this question I can do, this question I can do, this question I can do. But they do all the easy questions first and then leave the difficult stuff for later. But they've got more time on that.
But they should not waste time by trying to mark their own paper to see what mark they're going to get. Because that is not something they should be doing while they are meant to be answering the questions. The marking is our job.
And Bianca, for you guys?
For history, it's literally instructions and making sure you know how many questions to answer, because a lot of kids, especially for grade 10 and 11, when they get their common paper in June, they think they have to write all 4 questions and it's only 2 of them.
I know it's like that in languages as well. That paper too, like throws you for a loop because there's 5 million questions, but you're only supposed to answer 5.
Or 4.
Or
for
4.
Afrikaans. I think for consumer studies, it would be read carefully, because majority of the time the wording is a little bit different to what you are used to in class, but it's still the same. So if you find the keywords and place it out for yourself, you can also then go and do the questions that you think is the easiest first, and then leave the longer questions for last when you have a little bit more time to work through it.
Okay. And then I know that Francois had a bit of advice that he wanted to give to his students when it comes to the physics. So, Francois, first, what was the question that popped up in your head when you came up with this, what you wanted to say, so that the other teachers hear?
It was actually inspired originally by a class I had with the grade 11s, because the example that I did with them actually illustrated this absolutely perfectly. If I can commandeer the whiteboard, I'm assuming I can do so.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Present. You guys aren't allowed to present. It's just me. If I tell you, for instance, a block, excuse my handwriting, a block with a weight of 50 newtons rests on an incline of 40 degrees. How much information have I given you? Because it immediately seems like I've only given you two things. I've given you the weight of the block, and I've told you it's sitting on an incline of 40 degrees. But if you actually were to draw a little picture, and you're going to have to excuse my picture now as well, the kids constantly tease me about how I draw. This is essentially what you've been given. The block is sitting on an incline and it's at rest. But you actually have so much more information. By giving you the weight as 50 newtons, what I've actually given you is I've given you the mass as well, because you can calculate that because gravity is a constant. So immediately, right off the bat, you've got the mass as well, which you might not have thought you had. If we go back to our little diagram and we have to add all of the various forces that we can add on here, then we can say the weight is over there, and over here we have a normal, and the box is at rest. So we are going to have some friction keeping it in place, okay? The confused faces is okay. This is some theory that you have to do. But if you apply that theory now you can say, well, okay, the normal is actually equal to this force over here, the y component of the weight. And I've given you the weight. So by having given you the weight, I've also given you the normal, because you can calculate that very simply. Weight cos theta, which was 50 cos 40. So by just telling you the block is at rest on an incline, I've actually given you the y component, I've given you the normal. You can also say that the friction over here equals the wx component. You have a lot more information than it seems like you have. Sometimes you have to take one or two steps to get there, but the question is only going to tell you one or two things. You have to apply a little bit of the knowledge that you have, and you have to really look at the question carefully and take the information out. By just giving you this, a block with a weight of 50 Newton with a rest incline 40 degrees, you can make a question out of that for like 20, 30 marks because of all the information that you can actually take out of that. It doesn't look like it because I've told you two things. But if you draw a picture and you start looking at it and you have a systematic approach and you follow certain steps, you can actually get a lot more out of it. And that is a skill, perhaps Mr. Hein will agree with me, but being able to look at your question and taking the information out, that is a very, very important skill. I feel a lot of oaks ignore that sometimes. They just read the question and then they go straight to what must I answer without considering what have you actually been told if you read between the lines a little bit.
Yeah, and I think also the rest on an incline of 40 degrees automatically gives it away. Okay, you're going to apply trigonometry in this question. So you're immediately working with your triangle. So it just comes into play with that as well.
So would you say then that mathematics and physics are one and the same almost? It's almost like maths is teaching the theory and physics is teaching the practicality of it?
Yes, that is exactly what it is.
There's 100%.
Okay.
There are parts of physics that you cannot do unless you have the background in mathematics.
So I know that, okay, well, that's very interesting, but I do think it's a little bit different for history and maths lit because I feel like those papers are a lot of reading. Okay. Would the history and maths lit teachers now then say, actually, English is a really, or English home language, whatever home language the child is doing, is the biggest part of being
Yes.
able to answer those papers?
Yes,
Yes.
definitely, because you get source-based like questions in English where you have to go physically look for the answer, and it applies the same way to history. Because if you don't look for the answer and you just read the question and you write, then you might not get the correct answer written down because it's just there in the source for you.
So would you say then the comprehension skills plays a huge part of both of those
Yes.
subjects?
Yes,
Bianca,
definitely.
when you are thinking about maths lit now, obviously they are doing a lot of word sums. What would your advice be to your learners?
Read carefully. Majority of the time, your answer is hidden in your word sum.
Okay.
The answer that they want you to write down or that we are looking for you to write down is in the question.
Okay.
So I'm not going to tell you that, Sarah and Carla and Bianca has 100 apples between them. And, when we're talking about ratios, then the three of us gets 3, 2, and 1 is what we brought to the table. So how many is extra? You already have that capacity to work it out because this is not only did we do it in class, but you've been doing it from grade 10. So the grade 10 starts with ratios now and it builds up until matric. So if you read, they tell you exactly what they're looking for. You just need to go and calculate that final answer.
Okay. And then Carla, with the source-based questions, would you say it's not quite the same because it's not working with numbers, right?
No.
But it's about knowing your facts, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken.
Yes, and they also, I've noticed with like comparison questions, it's usually a two-part answer. So they have to give the fact and they have to explain the fact. So let's say source A is a cartoon that explains whatever is going on in source D. Then they ask you compare source A and source D and explain how they justify what is being said in source D, for example.
Okay.
And they struggle with that because you basically have to say the picture shows me this and this and this, and this is what is being said. And both of them combine because of this.
Okay.
So it's like thinking a little bit outside of the box and also using what you visually can see.
So overall, I think what I'm gathering from this conversation is that the kids could do well if they had to take that critical thinking skill and actually practice that skill. Okay.
Definitely.
Well, awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone then for your time this morning. It was really nice to talk to you. And yeah, I appreciate it.